let's say. Okay, we're recording. Oh my God, it feels so official. Okay. So weird. Okay, we are live, everyone. I will give it over to Mohammed. Are you doing?
Yes,
Okay,
it's me.
cool.
Students are doing, I'm just facilitating or just asking them.
That's
So,
true.
so who goes first for today's demo? Was it issue number 9? Issue number 9 and 10.
10.
Yeah, it was 9 and 10.
9 and 10.
Yeah, 9 and 10. So probably issue number 9 first.
Was that us? I think. Yeah, we were issue number 9. Julia, I don't know who would you like to do the demo, or I can. I don't mind.
You can do it.
Yeah. Oh no, that's fine. Let me just share my screen. Oh, Alex, I think you haven't enabled screen sharing.
There we go. Okay, you should be able to.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, so our issue was to implement a filter of the existing shopping list to make it easier to locate an item. So we added a text field at the top of the shopping list, and as soon as the user starts typing into the field, the list will automatically start filtering based on the input there. And then we also implemented a sort of delete button or an X button to clear the field when there is some input in there. And then the last acceptance criteria was that it should match any part of the item name, so not just at the beginning. So the application, so this is the live application. So let me just create a new list. Just add a few. Items in there. So our implementation was this text field at the top whereby you can type anything you like in here, and it should filter the list to show only the items that have that input within them, and then we can clear the field like that. Yeah, so I'll just walk through the code. So the first thing that we did was, find where it is. Okay, so we used the hook use state to set the state of this search term to update every time the user clicks or types any item within that text field. Then we also added in a search bar to display and search bar component to display that search bar at the top whenever there is at least one item in the shopping list, because we didn't want that to show when there were no items or no list. And we passed down this set value function, which then within the search bar component will pass up the value within that text field every time the user makes an input and sets that state of the set item, I think it's called, search term to be whatever is within that input box at the time. So then with the shopping list, we then implemented the filter method to look at all the items within the shopping list, convert it to lowercase, and check whether that search term is included within that item within the shopping list, and only display the ones that were a match. And then the rest of it, so the map was as it was before, so just displaying the item in the checkbox within the list. The only issue I think we had here was because the index, when we were marking items as purchased, the index was taking the index of the new filtered list and then checking within the database as purchased the index within the filtered list rather than the original shopping list. So sometimes when we were clicking that the item had been purchased, it was marking as checked a random item within the list. So that was a bug we came across that we had to try and work out how to fix. And so that's why we've got this additional line of shop index to then find the original index of the item within the original shopping list, so that we could make sure that that implementation of checking the box would still check the correct item. But other than that, I think it was all okay. Yeah, any questions?
Yeah, I have no questions, and it has been very well done.
Thank you.
So yeah, this is really good. On the filter and includes part, you're able to just pass in the string then, and it can check in the string. I always thought that would have to be like, you'd have to like split apart the string and then it would check, but that's really interesting to see.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's quite a useful one actually. It's not, yeah, I hadn't used it in that way before either. So it was, yeah, surprising to me as well that it just worked that easily.
Yeah,
so yeah, it was good.
Yeah, and good job too on like the weird bug that came up as well. Like, wait, why is this item being checked off when?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those ones that it just seems bizarre, but then makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a small comment. It doesn't has any like efficiency implication in this sort of case, but a small thing that could improve is that on line 76. So in this includes,
Yeah.
we are doing this to lowercase for every like once the filter is going on. So every iteration, the lowercase happens. But the search term is the same thing. So we could actually just do the lowercase once, and then we could use that.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. Yeah. It's only each item that we need to do every time, and then we could just set that to be a
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay,
Joseph.
great,
Joseph has a comment. I'm not sure we saw it. But I'm not sure what he is referring to. If Becky, if you understand.
Maybe in terms of the index.
Let me just in the chat. Is it in the chat? We can pass the name instead. I'm checking the handler.
I mean, passing the index. After filtering, you need to first look for the index. Perhaps we can pass the name instead of the index to avoid. But that one can come later anyway, refactoring our code after.
So do you mean so within where we've had to look up the index again here?
Yes, instead of the index.
Yeah.
Yes, we can pass the name of the item because the items are unique in the shopping list.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so we could change that to be within the mark items purchased. It could look up the name rather than the index, and then we wouldn't need to do this. Yeah, that would make sense.
Cool. All right. Or sorry.
Let me just.
Okay. Good work.
Yeah, good work there. Any other comments, questions? Okay, then we move to the next issue. Issue number 10, and Chiamaka and Joseph.
All right, thank you. Let me share my screen. Oh my God, okay. Sorry, I'm not able to share. They are saying I should grant permission. Okay. See now. All right. Okay, so this is how do I drag this down? this is our issue here as a user, not as an item. I want my estimated next purchase date to be computed, and then at the time of my purchase, and is recorded in the database so the app can learn how often I buy different items. And our AC is when a purchase is recorded, the estimated number of days until the next purchase should be calculated and recorded to the database. So I'm going to demonstrate the code and then the functionality, and then play Joseph's explanation of the code. Um, okay, so this is the database. A lot of documents, no problem, I'll find my own. Okay, so I'll create a list. I don't have an item yet. I'll add an item. Just let me use my name so that I can easily differentiate. Okay, I'm at 20. I'll add another item. Another item. Okay. So, okay, I've added these two items as something I'm interested in buying. I want to buy. So the first day after purchasing this first one, I'll come and tick here as purchased. And then in the database, a lot of documents. We are sorry. Okay, here it is. So this is the two items. I only clicked one as purchased, and it has already recorded number of purchases 1, and my last purchase on has been recorded, and then days left for next purchase. This initial date is the date I selected as how often I'm going to buy the item. So the initial days left for next purchase is going to be what I selected, like how often I am to buy the item next. I chose 7 days. So that's the initial date. And last purchase will now be recorded. For this item that I've not bought, the number of purchase is still 0. And then last purchase on is still 0 because I've not purchased it yet. So let's say after 24 hours, the check mark goes and I'm ready to buy this item again. I check again. Going back to the database, last purchase done has now been computed. Then the last purchase done has been recorded again as the time I purchased it the second time. And then the number of purchases has been updated to 2. This number of purchases is not really official, but we need it to do the calculation to calculate this. That's why we are persisting it in the database. So it has recorded 2 times. And then the last days left for next purchase. This value is really wrong because I altered the last purchase on time. That's why it's showing 6,164 days. But had it been allowed it to get to 24 hours and then unchecked by itself, it would have estimated the number of days, like 6 point something days or something. Then let me do it the third time. Okay, let's say another 24 hours is gone and the item is unchecked by itself and I want to purchase this item again. I'll check it again and then come back. Number of purchases is now 3. The last purchase done has been recorded as the time of now that I purchased, that I clicked it as purchased. And then the days left for next purchase has been computed again and recorded. So that is it. And also, once the user has checked this item as bought, it will no longer be unchecked because it's going to, since we are recording the time it was recorded, it was purchased, and the days left for next purchase. Once the user clicks it, all these computations will go on and do and then send to database. So, and when they uncheck it, you have to start reversing everything. So we just said that it won't be really nice and straightforward, and we made it in such a way that once the user checks the item as bought, that they can't be able to uncheck it again. So that's the functionality. So going to the code. Okay, so this video 2, video 3. Okay. Okay, can you hear the? Hello, is the video loud enough, or do I increase the volume?
I don't think we can hear it.
Okay, my volume is really low.
Chimaka, sorry, there's also some background noise. Maybe if it's a TV or something, you can close it.
There's background noise from my end.
There is, I'm not sure if it's from your end. There's some background noise from somewhere.
Wow. I don't know what's causing it. And I don't know why the video is not playing.
Chimaka, copy and paste it in the browser.
Oh, we can hear.
Oh, okay.
Is it that it has to be smaller screen?
I think it was, I think that was just Joseph talking in Zoom. Okay, and then if you could just turn it up, turn your volume up, Chiamaka, I think that'll be good.
The volume, it's already in the highest.
Okay.
Are you using an earphone?
Yeah, okay, I should remove it.
You try and remove it.
Okay, I've taken it off. I don't know why it's not playing. Let me read.
Okay, finally, this is how we implemented the feature I described in the last video. We started from the add items component. When we go there, you will notice that previously we had sorting list item name, days left for next purchase, and then last purchase on. Now we have added the fourth one, which is number of purchases, so that we keep track of this variable because it is required for estimating the number of days until the next purchase will be made. So when we go to the items list component, we did most of our work inside the mark item as purchased event handler. First of all, in this if statement, we are checking if the value of last purchased on is null, implying we are checking whether this item has been purchased before. Because if this value is null, that means the item has not been purchased before. We assign the current date in milliseconds to last purchased one, and we increase the number of purchases by 1, and then proceed to update our database. Else, if this item has been purchased before, we need to know whether the purchase was made within the last 1 day or it was not made within the last 1 day. If the purchase was made within the last 1 day, that means the check mark is already there, showing on the interface. So we return. That is why the person cannot uncheck the check mark. But if the purchase was made um, purchase is the one, and then we get the current date in milliseconds, and then we calculate the number of days left until the next purchase by invoking calculate estimate, which has already been declared for us. Of course, the first argument to this function must be the last estimate, which is days left for next purchase, and then this function here, which has been declared outside the component, is calculating the number of days between uh, the date when the last purchase was made and the current date. So when you look up here, this is get days between current and previous purchase. Essentially, we are getting the difference between the two and divided by the number of milliseconds in 1 day. And then the return value of this function here is once again assigned to days left for next purchase. So essentially, when we make this estimate, we assign it back. We make an estimate, we assign it back for every purchase. And then finally, after doing that, we also assign last purchase on to today's date in milliseconds, and then we update the database. So essentially, that was how we implemented. Thank you. And,
Has finished.
Yeah, that was good. Thank you. And yeah, the calculate estimate and the logic. One thing that I liked about this code was the if else condition. So it seemed like all the cases were covered. Yeah, this one. So first, considering that there wasn't any last purchase, and then considering that okay, there was this last, the item has been purchased before, but then has it been like 1 day, like 1 day limit has been there or not. So making sure that all of these conditions have been there has been like all of these conditions have been covered. So yeah, that was a good thing. And then I also learned something from it, as I was thinking, like adding an item basically purchases make means that you are purchasing it. So that was also clarified during the during the comment on the pull request. And that was one of the thing what Alex was mentioning, that if you are trying too hard to think or something, like just before our meeting today, I was doing that at 3 a.m. in the morning. So obviously I was half asleep. And then yeah, that was a good clarification. So thanks for that as well.
All right.
Yes.
I have a question. I'm not sure if I didn't notice correctly, but when you first add an item, are the estimate days stored as the days number, like for example 7, and when you buy it, the days are stored as milliseconds, or did I understand incorrectly?
No, the days are stored as the days left for next purchase are stored as days. But because if we left this for 24 hours so that it would uncheck by itself, the value that will be here will be like 6 point something days or something. But because I altered the time here, that's why this date is really big, but it's in days. This is supposed to be like 11,090 days.
Okay, so this just happened because you changed the value in Firebase, not because of something the code did.
Yes, yes.
Okay then. Okay, cool.
It's in days, but this one is in milliseconds. This one.
Yeah, this is like the number of days until I buy a Tesla. So like
Yes, it's supposed to
40
estimate when
years
you're supposed
from
to
now.
buy it.
I could just imagine like counting down the days. All right, 10,000 more days until I buy my next banana. No, that's really, yeah, that's really clear. Thank you guys for that. That's really helpful and really paints a picture of everything working together.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right, so I think we're on to our learning module of this week, because every other week it's a little learning module. And I am presenting, so I'm going to share over here. Yeah, I'll just share the window. Okay, so today's learning module is communication for devs. Wait, I'm trying to figure out if I want to, yeah, okay, sorry, I'm not going to be looking at you guys on Zoom. I'm going to be looking over here at the presentation, so don't be alarmed. I'm going to try to do the presentation, but let me know, are you able to see like me switching between slides?
Yes, we are able to see that.
Okay, cool. So we'll do that. So yeah, we're going to go over communication for devs, and the three main things we're going to be talking about are documentation, pull requests, and comments in the code. So just for you to have a little bit of an overview there. So basically, the whole theme of this learning module is that communication is really key as part of being a developer. And I'm sure we've all had our experiences just the past, however, has it already been 4 weeks, I think, with everyone, and communicating, whether that's in writing along with our threads for our developers as they go through the weeks and pair together, just letting everyone know where we'll be, what we're thinking, what directions we want to take in our code. Communication is really key, because we want to be able to make our teammates understand what we're trying to do and accomplish as effectively as possible. So really preventing a lot of that back and forth that comes with not really explaining things as effectively as we can, and just also avoiding a lot of confusion that also comes with the that back and forth of like not being as clear as we can be in the beginning. So the first topic of communication for devs is just in documentation. And so documentation, obviously there's a lot of different forms of it. So if we're using a different tool, just as you all used like Firebase hooks or just Firebase itself, like going through the documentation to explain or to understand how the tool works. Documentation in terms of like if you are contributing to an open source project and you want to figure out how best to contribute and like what's expected and I don't know how best to get the local setup. Documentation in terms of like what you write when you're kind of explaining how to test your own PRs and whatnot. Oh, we'll get to PRs later. But in any case, writing documentation for ourselves can really help us map out where we are in terms of like if we're learning how to do something in the code. chances are that as soon as we like learn how to do it and figure things out, we're not always going to remember the exact steps that we take, especially if we don't really know how to do it at the beginning, and we're doing a lot of trial and error and seeing things work out and then seeing them not work out. And so like documenting what you're doing really helps you not only understand where you are and how you got there, but also like helps you remember it if you have to go back and do the same thing again, but you don't exactly remember the exact steps. So just as it can help you figure out where you are, it also helps you learn, just by virtue of like having that extra layer of consciousness of actually going through the motions of figuring something out and then writing it down. So kind of reflecting on it as you go is a super helpful tool for just helping you learn. Number 3, it's a great tool for revisiting big decisions. So again, a lot of the times when we don't, we're not exactly clear on exactly what steps to take to achieve a certain result or solve achieve a certain solution. We can go back and revisit that in terms of, okay, so do we want to try do the same process for this other task, or do we want to figure out like if we want to do it a certain way? You can work with your teammates in that way and sharing the documentation that you've already written. And then not only is it like a great tool for us to use personally, like for ourselves as we document, but it's also great for like in a team setting, or like in a team setting with other team members and whatnot. And so like if you are in a new role and there's not necessarily great documentation in terms of like onboarding new members, it can be really useful to have these sorts of like what's the word I want to use, like kind of this foundational, okay, this is what we do, here's this step, this is the process we follow. If that's all documented, there's no like confusion on what comes next, or there's no like slipping through the cracks on different things. This flows into number 5 in terms of avoiding institutional knowledge. Institutional knowledge basically means like things that you're aware of when you're working in any sort of team, or if you're working in a company, but like the teammates know it just by virtue of being exposed to it for a long period of time, but it's not necessarily written anywhere. And so it's not necessarily accessible for new people coming onto a team. And so having that documentation just laid out for you, or laid out for any new team member, it avoids that discrepancy between people who've been on the job for a long time that just know how things work because they've been there a long time, and people who are brand new and are figuring things out as they go. And yeah, basically number 6, it just empowers all team members, as we kind of talked about just now. And so tips on writing good documentation. Generally, you'll want to write for the person who knows the least. And so maybe that will be you. Like, for example, I think I shared this with you all, but like a few weeks ago, just going through some of the new things in my own job, just documenting the process step by step of how I did something. I was the person who knew the least. Like everyone on my team are like experienced developers. And so just doing that helped me kind of get my footing and understand different things. And it also ended up helping some of the people on my team who hadn't necessarily seen things written out, or like hadn't really understood like why certain things worked the way they did. But because it was written out, it was like, oh, okay, easier to follow than just doing it, or just like knowing how to do it and assuming that everyone else did. And the second bullet here is optimizing the documentation for the person who needs a quick reference. And so not necessarily having everything like written out on a page, like no like different paragraphs or no spacing or anything. So like, for example, just formatting it well. And then we have an example here from React Router documentation of just like it's very clear here. You know exactly where you are in the documentation. As you scroll down, you have your description here on the left, and then here exactly just next to it on the right is the code that the description is talking about, and it's very well formatted. And then I actually have another example here with Stripe. The Stripe documentation is really great too, because as you scroll down, the code scrolls down with you, which is really nice. Like, so for example, just this little line here of where you're going to load this document, it just shows up right here. And then as you scroll down, so like looking at the form, it highlights the form in HTML for you. So I thought that was really cool as well for cool documentation and whatnot. Number 2 for this module is communication with regard to pull requests and making pull requests as we build our project. So as you all know, the purpose of making PRs is to give like your reviewers, your teammates context on your code before it's merged into the bigger project or the application as a whole. And so it's your opportunity to not only pass that like next step for getting your code merged, but it's also an opportunity for you to explain why you made certain decisions and why, you know, like why you made certain trade-offs as opposed to others. As you'll find out, a big part of interviewing is like actually explaining and talking through your code and explaining why you made certain decisions. And honestly, I think that the developers here, you've all done such a good job, and I've seen such a nice steady improvement in how you're explaining your code and like how clear you're being with it, and how it just seems like it's becoming a little bit easier for you to articulate the certain steps that you took and the thought process behind it. So definitely awesome. And I'm sure that you'll improve even more over the coming weeks. So in doing this kind of like talking and walking through your code, the PRs that you write kind of give that a little bit of a little bit more support, so that you're able to really like I don't know, like push the point home, I guess, of like really explaining what you did and what your code does. And so here, like as some examples that can really help with writing a really standout PR is like sharing screenshots, GIFs. I haven't shared GIFs yet in any of my PRs, or videos, like Loom videos that kind of show what's going on and what the code does on the UI. Links to resources and permalinks to different code that you reference outside of the PR. So instead of like sharing big examples of what you're talking about, you can like link it out. And we have a good example in this PR here that was made by Stacy a while ago, but you can see that in the description, she really links out to some documentation that if we wanted to, if we needed a little bit more context into what she was explaining, we could just go here, and she does it a few times. So that's a really nice like experience for your code reviewers, especially if you have a lot more to say that can be supported just by like letting them decide if they want to link out and follow that link. And then lastly, it's just important to self-review before we ask others to review our code. And this actually, I feel like this is so intuitive, but then also sometimes we don't always remember to do it. I know for me, like sometimes if I'm like writing if I'm ready to like submit a PR and I want to be done with the code that I've written, sometimes I just kind of push it up into a PR and then like request the review from someone before like actually looking at the changes myself and like kind of asking myself, okay, if I were looking at this review or this PR for the first time, would this be acceptable? Like what questions might I have? And so like doing that extra step before asking others to review it, just it kind of accelerates that efficiency of the communication between like, okay, so actually I caught this, let me go back and change this before I submit it. That way my reviewer doesn't need to tell me the same thing and then add on a little bit extra time between getting the pull request merged and making some changes to it. And I know I've been talking a lot. Does anyone have any questions so far? We'll have a little bit of reviewing or like discussion at the end of this, but if you do, don't hesitate to just interrupt me. And so the third concept in this learning module is communication via comments in your code. And we saw a lot of this actually this week, which is awesome. So commenting, like leaving comments in your code, especially like when you're working in a team that's gonna, or with teammates who are gonna be reviewing what you've done, is really helpful because it gives your team context as they're going through your code. So kind of in the same way that I was just talking about how we can document our process ourselves, it adds that extra layer between like actually doing it and actually like thinking about doing it at the same time. When you leave comments in your code, that's helping your teammates do the same thing. So like as they're reading their code, as they're kind of like processing what this code should do, having comments there to also read like reinforces that and like helps them think about it, and also like gives that extra explanation for like why you chose to write it this way as opposed to this way and whatnot. Number two, code can sometimes be self-documenting, but the decisions behind the code are not always self-apparent. So same thing, like there's so like in software engineering, I'm coming to realize there's just an infinite number of trade-offs. So like it might be great to write something this way, but actually then we like open up a can of worms over in like different files, or like it might be easier to do to make like a quick change and then it doesn't end up working out. And so when you leave these comments in the code, it gives everyone a chance to understand like why you made the decisions you made and like what your thought process was behind it. And in terms of the how, it's important to focus on the why. So like why this code was written rather than what the code does. Because again, your teammate will know by reading it what the code does as they're reading it. And so these comments in your code can really give that extra layer of like, not persuasion, but just like reinforcing why you did something and like, oh, okay, so Alex chose to do that because she thinks that that's easier than another thing or something like that. And I have a couple examples here, one from the PowerPoint of a good comment in code in terms of just like, so we just have like a little conditional here. And so basically we could just be reading through it fine. And then this is a nice little comment that just like explains it and then explains if it's set to true and like what will happen. And then we'll like, as we can just kind of brush over it and like, okay, that's why that's happening. Let's continue on with our code. And then we saw too this week that on Joseph and Chiamaka's issue, they left really this great explanation for Becky and Julia to like look over as they like to kind of explain like why they did it and like what it does and that kind of thing. So awesome work on that. Heading back in, I think we have a little brainstorm session that we can share. Oh wait, not share. We can share like with the developers and also the mentors, because it's really valuable to like share kind of experiences like from the inside, or like what like true like experiences of it. What if your experiences with documentation or PR descriptions, code comments, anything with like communication as a developer? What has that been like? And anyone can jump in. We want to hear from you.
I could add something.
Yes.
So what I have seen is, like, for me, the entry point to any new project is the README file. So that is the first thing. That is my introduction to that project. And there are projects that don't have README file, or they are just like a very basic README file that doesn't help. So I think so that's a very important thing to consider. So once you are, because that basically, with while reading the README file, it lets you set up your system. So if there is any configuration, or if there are any API keys or SSH or whatever, then usually that is the place where it's mentioned. So that is something very important to remember.
That's so true. That's really like that and that's one of the things too, when I was first starting to learn how to code, I was like, or like when I was first starting to build projects, I was like, oh, okay, I just want to initialize my repository. I'll do the README later. But then like, if you don't really sit down and focus on it, it just becomes like a like to do for later. And then other things start to be more and more important. But it's such a good opportunity to really like, not even just, well, to explain like what the project is, how to test, like how to start it and whatnot, but just to like show or tell the story behind it as well, and like show your personality. And for anyone who just visits your GitHub profile and sees something like that, it's like an automatic like, oh wow, this person really is like has some empathy for like the end user, or like the person who's going to be looking at this project. So I totally agree with that, Mohammed.
And it's very important to keep it updated as well. Like just 2 days ago, I was doing one project, and I was going through the README file of it, and that was like the README file was outdated. So the instructions that I was following was like they were not working. So at the end of the day, I wasted like a few hours, and then I contacted the developer. So then I realized, okay, that these instructions are outdated, and instead I have to like set up the environment in this way.
Yeah,
So that's
that's
also very important to remember, that it need to be updated.
totally. Any developers want to share their experiences with any of these?
I think, yeah, I just wanted to say that, yeah, I agree that Joseph and Shamaka's comments this week were really good, because I don't think otherwise I probably would have known well, I would have understood the code like you say, but then it's just sort of understanding the thinking behind it, because everyone implements things slightly differently. So yeah, it was really helpful to avoid having to then ask the question, I suppose, because it was already really well explained. Yeah, and the other thing I think is that I think has been good here at Collab Lab is having the template for the pull requests, with all the sort of, is it a bug, is it a new feature, having the screenshots, sort of sections for each thing is quite sort of good to have, even if it's your own project, I suppose, or just a small project that you're doing, just to have some sort of template that you use for consistency. I found that really helpful, just to, I guess, give you a prompt as well as to what extra information you might want to add, rather than it's easy to just sort of write a quick little couple of sentences and not really think any more about it. So yeah, it's been really useful the last few weeks to practice that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's so true. It's so easy to use a template like that just to start out, because or on the other hand, just like having like a blank text area is like, what do I write? I don't even know how to write anymore. Like, yeah, totally.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyone else?
I'd like to add my thoughts. First of all, I agree with you. You know, when you were saying that you finish a PR and you want to have it merged as quick as possible, But then, you might save 10 minutes by looking over it, but the back and forth, as you said, might end up taking hours. Or it might take 10 minutes for you to find the mistake because it's your own code, and take the reviewer 30 minutes to find the mistake. So it's not as efficient. And about comments, it has happened to me that I look at code, I see something that seems wrong to me. I go change it, but there was a reason it was done like that. So now I'm more careful. If I see anything strange, I first ask, and is there a reason we have it like this? Maybe it breaks another part of the code. So comments are very important. And they help in the future. If you refactor something, maybe the strange way of doing something isn't needed anymore, and you can fix it and make it more clean. So yep, comments are important on PRs and code, and I'm saying this so I can hear it myself and follow this.
Yeah, it's like the same thing we were talking about before. It's like, we know we should be doing this. We know we should be resting, or we know we should be documenting or leaving comments. And we just, our brains are like, no. I promise you, we're okay for this time. Like, let's just keep going. Yeah. Joseph or Chiamaka or Julia, do you have anything to add from your experiences?
I just want to add that fortunately this isn't the case for our team. In Team 19, they have a lot of comments and descriptions.
Yeah, I think it's really, everyone's doing a really good job. I think it's really good to like overshare than to not have enough information. And so I think it's great. I'm going to stop the share. It's okay if people don't have anything to say now. Sometimes for me, I know that like I can't really think of things off the top of my head just on the spot. So if you ever want to share anything regarding that, you know where to do it in the Slack. And I think we can move on to next week's issues.
Okay, so I'll be presenting them. I'll share my screen. And we're almost at the end. I thought when I was about to share the issues that, okay, we are issue 9 or something, and I saw we're at 11 and 12. So we're almost done for the functional issues. So for issue 11, as a user, I want to be able to delete items from my shopping list so that my list isn't cluttered with items I don't want to buy in the future. So it's possible our users may make an error when entering an item, or may decide they won't be buying a certain item again in the future. Let's help them keep their lists tidy. So the acceptance criteria is that the user is able to delete an item from the shopping list. Before deleting, they must prompt the user to confirm that they really want to delete the item to prevent accidental deletions. Because deleting is a destructive action, so you need to take care that the user doesn't accidentally click on delete and delete something they don't want. And deletion should cause the associated records in the database to be deleted. So there's a wireframe somewhere here. Here. They had some notes. Okay, and you should have a confirmation dialog and not a model. You might think that you can do this with a model, but that causes some accessibility issues. And using a confirmed dialog is better. So, okay, this is for another issue. Any questions about this issue 11? I think the most important thing is the confirmed dialog, and that the records are actually deleted.
Okay.
Sorry, Chimaka.
The details beside delete.
You mean the wireframe, the details?
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. Maybe it's part of another issue. Or maybe this wireframe is maybe in the previous teams, they also had an issue for details, but for now, don't pay attention to it. Only pay attention to the delete button. Okay, so thank you, Jamaka. And for issue 12, as a user, I want to view a list of my shopping list items in order of how soon I'm likely to need to buy each of them again, so that it's clear what I need to buy soon. So I think this is the actual functionality described. I mean, all of the previous steps were coming up to this one. So the possible item states are as follows: need to buy soon, fewer than 7 days; need to buy kind of soon, between 7 and 30 days; need to buy but not soon, more than 30 days; inactive, when there's only one purchase in the database or the purchase is really out of date. The time that has elapsed since the last purchase is twice what was estimated. This means that, for example, an item is inactive if the estimate was, for instance, 7 days, need to buy soon. So if more than 14 days pass, then it's marked as inactive. Or when there's only one purchase in the database. Okay, I'll check some notes for this because there are a bunch of notes that I don't remember. Okay, sure. Yep, it says here that an item is inactive at the time that has elapsed since its last purchase is twice or more what was estimated the last time it was purchased. So there's an example that the last estimate was 14 days and 28 days have elapsed. The item is considered inactive. And there's also another note that there's some teams in the past have thought of creating to lists. I mean, that's not necessary. You can just change the visuals. So the acceptance criteria is that items in the list are shown as visually distinct, for example, with a different background color on the list item, according to how soon the item is expected to be bought again: soon, kind of soon, not soon, or inactive. Here in the wireframe, here it isn't demonstrated so well. There's only a background color change in the checkbox. I mean, it might be better to have the entire item have its background color change. Items should be sorted by the estimated number of days until next purchase. So let's see. So on the top you have the items that need to be bought really soon, and then you sort by date. So first the items that need to be bought soon, then less soon, and finally the inactive ones on the bottom, like this. Items with the same number of estimated days until next purchase should be sorted alphabetically. It's pretty straightforward. And the items in the different states should be described distinctly when read by a screen reader. So you need to have area labels for accessibility on each item that helps a user with a screen reader know when they have to buy it. So here it is, that you also need to have it in addition to the visual indicator. Okay. Is everything clear on this issue?
I don't understand area label.
It's a label you put on various HTML tags that helps screen readers. So if somebody's using a screen reader is software that reads out the stuff on the screen. I think Windows has it by default. There are probably some screen readers for Linux. And they move along the page like this. So maybe it reads out Stacy Taylor Sima commented on this. So if you don't have area labels, the screen reader will just read eggs, fluffernutter, cappuccino, but it won't read that this item is active, inactive, or how soon you need to buy it. I mean, you could say that you could add a text next to it, but it doesn't look so nice. And this way, by having the area label, you have the best of both worlds. You don't need to add a text telling if it's, don't need to add a text that's visible on the screen. But people who are, for instance, deaf and they're using a screen reader can hear that the item is active or inactive, or how soon they need to buy it. I can send you later. Now I don't have any links, but I can send you later a couple of links on our labels.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you too. Any other questions? I mean, I'm not 100% sure that I understand the inactive part when it says when there's only one purchase or the purchase is really out of date. This I might ask in Slack, because I understand when it's out of date, but I don't understand why it should be inactive when there's only one purchase in the database. So I'll ask for some clarifications on that one. Okay, so I think for this week, the pairs are Rebecca, Joseph, Jamaica, Julia. Am I correct?
Yes.
Cool, awesome. So as usual, if you want to grab any issue, if any of the teams wants to grab any issue, or I can randomly assign.
Yeah, we can randomly assign if that's okay with everyone. I think that's what we've been doing.
Okay, cool. Then I'll do it as I have it noted down. Rebecca and Joseph can get issue 11. Jamaica and Julia can get issue 12.
Awesome. Is that okay with everyone?
Okay. Okay.
Awesome. Okay, so thank you very much. And thank you, Alex, for the awesome presentation. It was really cool.
Thank you all. All right. Cool. I think that's all. We have. These sessions pass so quickly, always. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll see each other in Slack. And any questions, we're there. I think we did a really good job too of communicating about where we were in like our PR review process, which was good. I think everyone did a pretty good job about that. So to be continued, and everyone have a great week. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Have a great week.